The House committee investigating the deadly Capitol riot has issued new subpoenas to several high-profile allies of President Trump, former President Trump. They include his former campaign manager, Bill Stepien, senior advisor Jason Miller. The subpoenas also target Trump attorney John Eastman and former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Lawmakers investigating what led to the attacks are also turning their attention to the Willard Hotel in Washington. Trump allies allegedly gathered there to discuss plans to overturn the 2020 election results. Here to break down what this all means is Kris Van Cleave. He's joining us now from the Hill. So, Kris, good to see you, my friend. Before we get to all that, there are some new developments on the former president's efforts to block the committee's requests for White House records during his term in office. Overnight, we've learned a judge apparently denied Mr. Trump's attempt to issue some sort of injunction ahead of the planned document transfer deadline. What do you know about that?
Sure. So it was a night of late-night filings in this case. Former President Trump, through his attorneys, filed a demand, basically, that the judge make a decision by tomorrow. And if the judge didn't decide whether or not these Trump administration documents could be released to the January 6th committee, he was going to file a suit to basically bypass this court and go right to an appellate court. The judge in this case, that is yet to rule on it, said that this filing was premature and that she was moving in an expeditious manner. Those documents that the January 6th committee is seeking from the National Archives, these Trump administration documents, are supposed to be released on Friday. Thursday, Veterans Day, is a holiday. That's what the former president was using as justification for making this demand that a decision be made essentially by tomorrow, or he was going to file an immediate appeal even without a decision to an appellate court seeking an injunction.
Okay, so let's turn back to these new rounds of subpoenas. We mentioned some of the key players, including Bill Stepien and Michael Flynn. Who else is on the list?
Sure. So you have Bill Stepien, who is the campaign manager. You had a senior advisor to the campaign, Jason Miller, as well as the campaign's executive assistant for Mr. Trump, Angela McCallum. You had Trump attorney John Eastman. He had advocated then Vice President Mike Pence had the authority to overturn the election results. Also on the list are former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Bernard Kerik, an associate of Rudy Giuliani, who's a former NYPD commissioner.
So does the committee expect that all witnesses will cooperate, Kris?
Well, you know, the committee hopes that the witnesses will cooperate. Former President Trump has instructed his former staffers not to cooperate. So it's a bit of an open question. You know, we saw Jeffrey Clark come in for a deposition and basically refused to answer any questions. So, they have had some successful meetings, interviews, and depositions. They've had other folks who have chosen not to appear. Of course, the most notable, Steve Bannon, who was then held in contempt of Congress. That criminal referral is still sitting at the Justice Department. It's been about 3 weeks since the House made that finding of contempt. So it's kind of an open question. They'll have to turn over documents later this month, and then the depositions are scheduled for the first half of December. And it's kind of a wait-and-see approach now. Will they participate? Will they cooperate? We'll find out. Stay tuned.
If they do agree to testify, what kind of information do lawmakers expect to get from them?
Well, lawmakers are seeking documents as well as they've got questions about specific events. Obviously, for the campaign staff, they're interested in communications about the election results, about the Stop the Steal movement. For the folks that they think may have been in that Willard Hotel war room, so to speak, they've got questions about what went on in there. Certainly Eastman's claims and the documents he created around this argument that then Vice President Pence could overturn the election results. These are all things that are trying to get at what happened leading up to and during January 6th, whether it be the rallies, particularly the ones that turned violent, who may have financed the rallies, what communications were taking place, if any, between the White House and these officials and members of Congress, as well as the organizers of some of those rallies.
All right, Kris, thank you very much.
Sure thing.